Hello and welcome to Reality Check, where every night we investigate or fact-check political hyperbole. Tonight, reservations for Muslims, minority appeasement or a legitimate entitlement. Now, this is a debate that has been sparked by the decision of the Telangana government to increase quotas for Muslims from 4% to 12%, and which has drawn, not surprisingly, strong criticism from the BJP, whose MLAs were ejected from the state assembly after they protested. But the Chief Minister of Telangana said the decision was based solely on economic, not religious factors.
Different independent commissionలు దీన్ని అధ్యయనం చేసినప్పటికీ ఖచ్చితంగా మళ్ళీ సామాజిక వెనుకబాటు మీదనే కులాల పేరు మీద మతాల పేరు మీద రిజర్వేషన్లు ఇవ్వరు కాబట్టి అందుకు రాజ్యాంగం కూడా అనుమతించదు కాబట్టి సామాజిక ఆర్థిక వెనుకబాటు మీదనే రిజర్వేషన్ ఇవ్వడం అనేది మన రాజ్యాంగంలో మన దేశంలో కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వం గాని వివిధ రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు గాని అవలంబిస్తున్న విధానం అధ్యక్ష.
Alright, as always on Reality Check, we focus on the facts. Are Muslims in Telangana deserving of reservations? Is there evidence to show that they're indeed backward? Or do the facts suggest a far greater complexity? Now, reservations for Muslims first came on the basis of a 2007 report by the Andhra Pradesh Commission for Backward Classes, which recommended that specific classes of Muslims are treated as socially and educationally backward as well as economically backward. But it was not reservation for all Muslims, only 14 subgroups within them. The list of those groups is scrolling on the screen and it gives you an idea of the minutiae that the commission went into. This includes Dhobi Muslims, subcastes with names like Fakir Muslims, Garadis, Gosangis, and so on and so forth. So the reservation initially was just targeted at only these 14 subcastes. Now, at the same time, while listing this, the commission also outlined those Muslim groups who will not be eligible for the quota. And those names of those subcastes or those groups are also up on the screen. These are groups like the Sayyads, the Pathans, the Bohra Muslims, Shia, within the Shia, the Imami and Ismailis and so on. Now, these are those that said that will not deserve reservation. So it's on this basis that the state government settled on the 4% reservation figure for Muslims. But now that figure has jumped to 12%, which matches the total percentage population of all Muslims in the state. Now, what's the basis for this increase? It's another report commissioned by the Telangana government in 2016, which outlined a number of factors to argue for increased reservation. But when we studied that report, the facts that it advanced to make the case for Muslim backwardness was conflicting. For example, it finds that Muslims have lower attendance rates compared to upper caste Hindus, which itself is an odd comparison, 44% versus 40%. But it also finds that Muslim households have a higher percentage of children not going to school or college. Okay, so that's the reason that it says it's backward. But there's a paradox here. The paradox is that the commission finds that Muslims have a higher literacy rate than the state average. It finds that it's 77% literacy rate for all Muslims, but the state average is only 66%. So 77% is for all Muslims in Telangana, the literacy rate, while the state average is 66. Now, moving on, looking at some of the other factors. The study finds that Muslims have poorer living conditions compared to other communities. It finds that Muslims have their own houses, only 57%, while 73% Hindus have their own houses. But again, with Pakka houses, there's 31% Muslims versus 47% Hindu OBCs who have their own houses. But then if you take a look at another data, again there's a paradox there. It finds that when it comes to access to drinking water, it's 58% Muslims have access versus 50% of Hindus. So Muslims appear to be doing better. And perhaps what is the most surprising part of this report, when it comes to economic parameters, the data is quite conflicting. In fact, it finds that backward Muslims seem to be earning more and spending more. So 51% backward Muslims have an income greater than 10,000 rupees a month versus just 45% backward Hindus. Also, if you look at the average expenses, it finds that for backward Muslim, the monthly average expense is 6,513 rupees, while for backward Hindus, it's only 4,800 rupees. So, the only evidence then of the financial weakness of Muslims in this report compared to other communities comes in fact from national data, not from Telangana data, but national data quoted in the Sachar Committee report, using as a basis the National Sample Survey. Now, according to that, it finds that the per capita monthly expenditure of Muslims between 2004 to 2011, in that 7-year period, is 60%. It's rising by 60% compared to tribals, which is 69%, SCs 73%, OBCs 89%, and of course upper class Hindus 122%. So overall, nationally, the average per capita income is rising for Muslims at a lower pace, but that's not specific to Telangana. Anyway, the report simply then concludes by finding that Telangana has only 4% of Muslims in government jobs. So their representation is very low, and therefore it concludes that there's a need for increasing reservation. But as we've just seen, that's a claim that's not necessarily backed by facts. So let's now debate this to look at necessarily whether this is just now a form of political appeasement, or is this actually giving that community a due? And once again, does it raise the spectre of religious reservations? We'll have Venkaiah Naidu, exclusively the Union INB Minister, in just a second. But also joining us is Mr. Palla Rajeshwar Reddy, General Secretary of the TRS, also an MLA. Sabha Naqvi, Senior Journalist, is also with us. We'll be going across to GVL Narasimha Rao, spokesperson of the BJP as well, very shortly. But if I can just go to you, Mr. Reddy, first. As we just found there with the data that we presented, that in fact there is no concrete evidence to establish that Telangana Muslims are necessarily backward socioeconomically in order to justify this reservation. Doesn't that then vindicate what the BJP has been saying, that this is not being done for socio-economic reasons, this is just purely political, being done to appease the Muslim vote bank?
Shall I? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Hello. Sir, I am actually not General Secretary of the party, I am just MLC and Government Whip. First, I would like to clarify that.
All right, we stand corrected.
Coming to the issue, actually, our leader and Chief Minister of the Telangana actually is instrumental even in the commissioning of the Rajendra Sachar Committee in 2005 when he was Cabinet Minister in the central government. And we have seen the several committees. Rajendra Sachar Committee has given recommendations, and also which also clearly mentioned that only 2.5% of the Muslims are there in the Indian bureaucracy.
No, but
and
sir,
also,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
They also clearly mentioned that. Sir,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we can't go into the Sachar Committee because that was for the whole country. I'm just on the data that was presented by the Sudhir Commission, which your government asked to come up with a report on the backwardness of Telangana's Muslims. And as we've just seen from the data, it's not at all clear that they are indeed backward. In some parameters, they're doing better than other communities. Hindu communities, in some parameters, they're doing worse.
No. Based on all these committees, Rajendra Sachar Committee, Ranganath Mishra Committee, and also Kundu Committee, we have also studied all those, and then the TRS party has given promise to the Muslims, because they are economically backward, educationally backward, socially backward. So based on this, we have actually commissioned the Sudhir Commission.
You're not acknowledging the data which has been put out by your own commission.
You have mentioned, you have mentioned one literacy rate. Literacy rate is different from the education. Literacy is measured by the just if a person is able to write or sign, just simply they will be, we call them as the literate. But that is not the criteria. But we have seen the
But I'm not just talking about literacy rate. I'm talking about income, I'm talking about average expenses, I'm talking about access to drinking water. In all these parameters, Telangana's Muslims appear to be doing better than other communities. Let me come back to you in just a second. Let me just go across. I'll come back to you in a second, sir. I'll come back to you in a second. I just want to go across to Venkaiah Naidu, INB Minister, who I spoke to a short while ago when he was in Guwahati, and I began by asking him that he has made a very strong statement saying that if this reservation is implemented in Telangana, it will create another Pakistan. What did he mean by that?
No, try to understand. The Constitution do not allow any communal reservation. Secondly, in the Constituent Assembly, this issue was discussed about having communal reservation that has been rejected by all, Dr. Ambedkar to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel to all others. Thirdly, certain state governments have earlier tried to provide communal reservation, which was struck down by the court. Fourthly, some states have now, earlier Mr. Rajashekhar Reddy government have provided some 4% reservation that has been challenged again in the court.
Okay, sir, but at the same time, the Telangana government insists that this is not being done on communal grounds, but on socio-economic factors. Is that acceptable to you?
On that, they have a point. But my point is that Mandal Commission has also included certain communities belonging to the Muslim community into the backward class. Whoever is socially, educationally backward, we are in favor of providing them reservation. Why do you differentiate between Hindus and Muslims and Christians? Whoever is socially or educationally backward, identify it through a proper process and then provide them reservation, and Constitution approves it and it will stand the scrutiny of the law. But if you combine the entire religious community and say that they are backward, I don't think law will accept it.
But you know, at the same time, the Prime Minister himself at the executive is said to have said that there is a need to reach out to the backward classes amongst the Muslims. I mean, you were there.
This has been our stand. Even I have been talking about the same.
No, but you were there at that executive, so you could clarify. Is that a correct picture? Is that a correct picture what he said?
जो गरीब लोग हैं, जो socially backward है, उन लोगों को भी ये reservation का फायदा मिलना चाहिए. उन लोगों को भी सरकार का जो activities है, particularly education में, अन्य विषयों में, उनको they should also be given the due place. So that being the case, we are not against per se because of a particular religion. If they are socially and educationally backward, there are communities among the Muslim communities also. There are, you know, that Noor Bhasha, in different areas. We in Andhra and Telangana, we call it as Dudakula. In certain areas, depending on their profession and all, they have been socially and educationally, they have been termed as backward. Such communities okay. But if you take it as a religion, there are so many other communities which cannot be bracketed as backward.
Okay. All right. Venkaiah Naidu there. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Coming back to the panel, GVL Narasimha Rao also joining in. GVL Narasimha Rao, is it your contention, as Venkaiah Naidu was suggesting, that this kind of reservation done on religious grounds, even though the state government says socio-economic data doesn't back it, is likely to inflame communal tensions at a time when the communal temperature of this country is already high?
No, Sreenivasan, more than that, this militates against the very foundations of reservations that have been provided to the OBCs. This runs completely counter not only to the Constitution and also the principles on which reservation has been made available to the backward classes. So I think what this government is trying to do is they think by mouthing a few lines, they can bring the entire community and on religious basis under reservation, but the reality is certain castes under the Muslim community, Muslim religion. I have a list with me. There are 4 such castes in the state of Andhra Pradesh who are among the Muslim community who are included in the central list of OBC reservations, and there are nearly 18 or 20 castes belonging to the Muslim community which are a part of the state list. So for the party, for the government, TRS government to say that all the Muslims in this state are backward is trying to actually fool the public of this Telangana.
Okay, can I before I go to Sabha, let me get a quick reaction then from Palla Rajeshwar Reddy. Palla Rajeshwar Reddy.
Yes, no.
Is this fooling the people when you say all are backward? Initially, it was 4%.
No. We
and
never
only
said
certain communities were identified.
No.
Now it's 12%. So you're saying all are backward?
No, sir. Telangana government considered only 14 subcaste of the Muslims. Only their reservation is increased. The other 15%
No, but even
of
then,
the
why?
15 caste, 15.
No,
Let me complete. Let me complete.
But then why increase it to 12%?
15 subcaste like Sayyid, Mirza, Ladaf, Afghans, Arabs and all these castes are not included in the reservation. The reservations are included only for the 14
But
subcaste.
why
which
increase
is
it?
already there for the 4%.
But
Now,
why did
based
you
on the
increase it to
Sudhir
12%?
Commission, subsequently on the BC Commission, Telangana BC Commission, we have increased it from the 4 to 12%. Now,
Okay,
as
Sabha
per
Naqvi.
today's SKS survey, we have done a SKS survey. As per SKS survey, there are more than 14% of people are there. We have extended only to the 12%. We thought remaining 2.5% is related to these
Okay,
Sayyid and other
Sabha
subcaste.
Naqvi, if you
We
can
are
come
very,
in here.
very clear.
When
that
you look
all
at
the
this-
subcaste of the Muslims are not given. Only
Okay, when you-
backward Muslims, that too only 14 subcaste, which is already given 4%. Their percentage.
All right, can I just get
increased.
Sabha Naqvi in, please? Sabha Naqvi, do you think that these sorts of decisions, which don't appear to be fully thought through, are only going to sharpen communal polarization?
See, Vasu, there are, first of all, the Muslims, many backward Muslims are seriously in need of reservation and they get it in a lot of states. They are included in the list. I think 75% of Muslims technically would be allowed to get reservation. But the problem with all reservation, be it with Hindus and Muslims, is that certain dominant castes tend to dominate that quota. So that's why the idea of sub-quotas
That's
comes
a different
in.
issue.
And that has been it's been a problem for other castes also. And similarly, for instance, there are Hindu Babas who will get reservation. In Muslims, they are called Hajams, who are also entitled. The problem, so in paper, Muslims all over India are entitled through the OBC list to get reservation. The problem is they are not able to compete, which is why the idea of the quota comes in. But there is a problem, and in doing it in this manner, I'll explain why. The Congress also, forget the year, they announced a 4.5% quota for Muslims, right? And then they were unable to defend it. And they did not do a very convincing job in the Supreme Court.
That's what...
They did not do it.
Right.
Even this particular quota that is now, they didn't have the heart. It
Okay,
was
let me
done
just
before
get...
an election, and they did not do it in a convincing manner.
Okay, let me just bring in Professor...
So that is the dilemma.
Sreenivasan.
And
Okay, let me just...
politicians need to do
yeah,
this.
let me just bring in Professor Amitabh Kundu. Can I bring in Professor Amitabh Kundu? He joins us on the phone line. Unfortunately, he is not in India at the moment. But he's somebody who did the follow-up report to the Sachar Commission report. Professor Kundu, as you listen to this debate, now, while the Sachar Commission report and the follow-up did find evidence that on certain parameters there could be a case made for Muslim backwardness and therefore for reservations, but it does vary from state to state. So if one looked at the data from Telangana as we did, it didn't seem like there was a convincing enough argument to make a sweeping generalization of Muslim backwardness, which is what the state government appears to have done.
Basu, I am in Lebanon, and here also the reservation issue in different spheres are as important, perhaps somewhat more important than Indian context. I would certainly disagree that Telangana government has tried to communalize the issue by demanding this, because they made a promise at the time of election, and it is their responsibility to really come to the court and present evidence, because Supreme Court has not said that the country varies in terms of percentage of SC, ST and OBC population across the states. I think to say that 50% should be the cutoff point cannot be really sustained, and also Supreme Court itself has said that please give us empirical evidence in the context of even continuation of reservation for promotion. They want evidences, and that's why they have struck down. I think it is up to the Sudhir Commission to reproduce the data. I would like to tell you, since I have looked at the Muslim deprivations as a part of post-structure committee and also as a member of National Statistical Commission, and I
Okay.
was advising this committee. Their database varies. National Sample Survey Literacy Rate, Census Literacy Rate, and the survey conducted by Sudhir Commission are at variance to a certain extent. Also, I must say that when Mandal Commission was mentioned,
Yes.
Mandal Commission says that percentage of women employment should be very high to be qualified as a backward
Okay.
class. I think that's not correct. In fact, for the Muslims, it's much lower. The indicators themselves need to be examined and the database needs to be
We actually
verified.
have-
The Telangana government to put up the data.
Okay, we actually have that data, some of the findings of the Satchar committee report as far as the national picture is concerned. We'll try and put that up on the screen for you. But I do want to pick up on that point. I'm coming to you in a second, GVL. I want to just go to Mr. Rajeshwar Reddy on the point that Professor Kundu made, that as far as the ceiling is concerned, the Supreme Court ceiling is concerned, Mr. Reddy, the TRS government has already breached the 50% cap.
No.
So essentially,
There is
what
no
you're
bar
promising
actual,
is not going to stand the test
we-
of
we-
law. So
we-
is this
we
just
have
a political
promised
stunt?
So let me speak, sir. We have clearly mentioned before the elections, and also we have mentioned in the manifesto that the Muslim population is increasing and they should be given based on their backwardness. And
No, I'm
now
saying
this
that
is
the
there
Supreme
in the
Court will
other
not
parts of the
accept this.
country, the Tamil Nadu.
Because you
Look, let
breached
me
the
complete,
cap.
sir. Tamil Nadu has the 69%. Out of that, 3.5% for the Muslims. Even in the United Andhra Pradesh has 4%, plus
Okay,
1%
GVL
in the
Narasimha Rao.
BCA and BCD. So now, not only these, other
GVL
7
Narasimha Rao,
states
come in here. No,
in
Tamil
India,
Nadu, GVL Narasimha Rao,
7
Tamil Nadu
states
is an
in India
exception.
has more
That
than
matter
50%.
is also before the court.
Why not for Telangana? No,
Okay,
by
go ahead,
looking at the other 7 states,
Okay,
Sorry?
GVL Narasimha Rao, come in. If this is
Sreenivasan.
legally
there are
rendered
7
infraction,
states in
then
India,
that
India
is
has
okay.
it's
GVL
has
Narasimha
got
Rao.
more than
It's
50%.
important to
Why
put
not for
everything in
Telangana?
perspective. Sreenivasan, can I?
Yes,
Sreenivasan, I think clearly it is a political plot of the party. It is not a move aimed at social justice, because the backwards today account more than 50% of Telangana. TRS government doesn't want to think of them, but they want to look at only a particular community, because they want to go the Samajwadi Party way. And I want to warn him, if you try going Samajwadi Party way, you will end up with the same kind of a result in Telangana also. And this move of YS Rajshekar Reddy government's policy of reservation on communal basis was struck down by the High Court by a 5:2 judgment. A
Okay,
constitutional
last word.
bench called it unconstitutional.
Okay, last
and the
word.
matter is currently
Last
sub
word.
judice under
No,
a
let
constitution
me
bench in
speak.
Supreme
Actually,
Court.
we are
It's
not
clearly
afraid
violative
of the
Last
political
word from you,
result.
Sabha,
No,
that regardless of whether
No, you are pursuing it purely as a political project. It's an appeasement agenda
There is no
for
question of
you. We want justice
No.
for every community.
No,
Okay.
We
have
want
made
even
very
the backward among
clear
Muslims
before
to
the
benefit.
election
But we
that
don't
we should
want.
Okay, last
we
word
can
from
see
you.
now your
Gentlemen,
political
gentlemen.
plot
and
here.
we have implemented that.
Okay,
Your
last word from you,
criminal
Sabha.
agenda is visible.
Politicalism is-
Okay, last word from you, Sabha. Regardless
For you,
of,
it's
regardless
criminal
of the
politics.
merits of the argument, regardless of the facts, Sabha, do you think that at a time like
Yeah.
this, at this politically and communally charged time, do you think a move like the one that the TRS has made, even though they say they may be following their own manifesto, do you think that it is prudent or could it backfire?
Sorry?
If it's in their manifesto, and I don't think that people should, out of fear, stop doing what is right. My question,
Okay.
my doubt about this is that it doesn't seem to fit in with the whole thing of only the backward Muslims, because there are Muslims. I'm saying whenever we talk about reservation of all communities, it's really important to understand who can get it without a subquota. It's only the dominant castes who get it. I think, it's a slightly complicated thing.
Right.
And I don't think there is really a need for Muslim communities to get reservation.
Right.
So, I mean, how do we find a balance between real politics
Right.
and this genuine need for representation of a particular community,
Okay,
of people, of some caste groups of that community? Let me say
okay,
that.
fair enough. I think
there are
it's
certain, a cleric will say there is no caste. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a big challenge to try and find that balance, especially at the time we're in now. But thank you very much indeed for joining us, GVL Narasimha Rao. Mr. Pala Rajeshwar Reddy, Sabha Naqvi, and of course Amitabh Kundu on the phone line. Thanks very much indeed. We'll have to leave it there. Back tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Good night.